This is the North Star Takes podcast with Bailey Palicki and Jacob Liberta. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and also tell your sports loving friends about this channel as well. And be sure to leave a like on this video as well, as today we're going to be talking about the Minnesota Timberwolves. Through 3 preseason games, they're 3-0, undefeated. Granted, you can take that with a grain of salt because they're not exactly playing these teams at full strength, but definitely stuff to be encouraged by. Most notably, we're going to get into rotations and just what we think about the roster overall in general as we go into the regular season here. So through 3 preseason games, they've had 3 different groups of starters. The constants have been Russell, Edwards, McDaniels, and Cat. And then they've mixed in each game Okogie, Vanderbilt, and Malik Beasley. And Chris Finch was kind of asked about it, like, are you set on a certain lineup? Or are you just trying different things out? And he basically said they're just trying different things out. And it's realistic that all these different combinations could be used throughout the season. And I think it's just going to be matchup based, honestly. Kind of if they need to play a little bigger, they'll have Vanderbilt in there. If they're going to have to run and gun with some other offensive driven team, I could see him starting Malik Beasley. And if they want like a strong defensive presence right off the bat, then it makes sense to have Okogie in there. And Okogie is kind of playing the power forward spot, even with McDaniels in there, which I found interesting. So what are your thoughts on kind of mixing up the starting lineups here and how that has an effect on the rest of the team as well?
Yeah, I think this is probably a decent idea for Finch to really just mix and match, see what works, see what doesn't, and really find what or how this team is going to groove this season. I think it's fine to really make it matchup based, like you said, depending on the opponent, night in and night out. I think we can change it up a little bit. We have a lot of guys that have a lot of versatility. It can play several different positions, so I think that's going to provide us honestly some flexibility in terms of like if we're going to play a pretty big team, then obviously you're going to want to have, like, let's say maybe McDaniels play the 3 or something, but or if you're going to play maybe a quicker team, maybe you want Beasley in the lineup. I don't know, but there's a lot of different combinations that we could roll with, and I think Finch is just keeping his options open as he should, and I think he's doing his due diligence as far as seeing really who gels with these guys. I like that. Basically D'Lo and Cat, those ones are obvious, and then McDaniels too. I think that one's pretty telling, but at the same time, I guess we probably kind of expected that even before they played these preseason games. So
Yeah.
I think that I'm really liking what I'm seeing. I think that I just want to know, I guess, what's going to be just literally night one. Who's going to come out on the floor to start the game?
If I had to guess, I'm probably going to just say Okogie because I think Finch really likes having Okogie in with that group. But I could be completely wrong as well. When it comes to the bench, though, you got Patrick Beverly, obviously. Taurean Prince has looked very good in his time coming off the bench. Naz Reid has looked much improved, and he's just a guy that continues to improve every single year. And then you have one of those 3 guys we mentioned that mix in with the starters. One of them will be coming off the bench. And I feel like I'm forgetting somebody because I feel like they're 10 deep right now.
Bomero?
Balmero, I don't think he's quite the 10th guy. It'll come to me. But
Okay.
yeah, I think this is once again just a really deep team. I'm impressed with the depth that they've assembled here, and they seem to truly have like 10 to 12 NBA caliber players that even if you do sustain a couple injuries, like Jordan McLaughlin can play point guard, if Patrick Beverly goes down for a while or something like that. So yeah, I think it's interesting to see how Chris Finch is going to mix and match these guys because Taurean Prince is playing well with like the starting unit, so he won't necessarily start, but he might get some good run time with the starters at certain points throughout the game. Playing 2 guards next to each other like D'Lo and Pat Bev, or even like bringing in Naz Reid to play with Cat. There's so many different combinations, and man, I'm so excited for this team. What are your initial thoughts on just the overall roster itself? And do you think they're truly good enough to actually contend for a playoff spot?
Yeah, I think it looks good from the onset. Obviously, we got to stay healthy. I think that's the most critical thing here. I think we obviously haven't seen enough games, especially with our big 3 between Ant, D'Lo, and Cat. And when we have, they've played very well together, and that's encouraging. Hopefully, we get to see a whole season's worth of games between the 3 of them. But I think just going beyond just them too, I really like what I'm seeing. I think that it's widely regarded even outside of the Timberwolves bubble here in Minnesota. I think that most NBA analysts and writers and all the media that covers the league, I think that they believe this Wolves team is capable of being like a play-in team. But I would say that I'd have a notch above that. I would think that we could be like I guess maybe technically still win the playing games, but still be like a 7th or 8th team in the West or something like that. Maybe even
Yeah.
higher. I don't know. Kind of depends how high Ant's ceiling really is, and if he starts to get close to that or start getting even better than he was last year. Obviously, maybe playing more two-way basketball, but
Hmm.
I think that can make a huge difference for this team. And I don't see why it couldn't be a playoff roster. How about you?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And when they played the Clippers the other night, it kind of dawned on me the Clippers are going to be without Kawhi Leonard for most of the season.
Yeah.
And, they could still obviously be a good team with Paul George. They got some other pieces as well. But
Mhm.
at the same time, it's like that's a potential team that could slide down too. So it's like you got them. Memphis Grizzlies have made some kind of weird moves. They're no guarantee to be back in there. Like there's some teams that were in the playoffs last year that you kind of wonder if they'll really be able to get back there. Dallas being another one. So yeah, there's some questionable teams that I think if the Wolves can really just come out and play well, stay healthy, the core group can kind of gel together like we saw at the end of last season. I think for sure they could be a top 8 seed. Hopefully it's better than just a play-in team, but I think, making the play-in would be a success, honestly, given where this franchise has been the last
Yeah,
15 years or so since KG. So
that's true. Given the history, yeah.
yeah, so yeah, it's gonna be fantastic. I think one thing I've noticed throughout the preseason here is that the defense has improved drastically, and specifically from Anthony Edwards and D'Angelo Russell.
Hmm.
Now, D'Angelo Russell's not going to be any lockdown type player, but
Oh no.
he's just like simply moving his feet more, getting his body in front of people. He's just becoming a little bit more of a nuisance, which is really all you need from him. He doesn't have to be an elite defender. And
Hmm.
Ant's just been getting steals like crazy, stripping the ball from guys trying to drive on him. I think his improved size, he's grown a couple inches, but it looks like he's also just put on a lot more muscle. Like, I think he's just going to be an insanely good player. Once he can kind of relearn his shot after bulking up more and getting taller, I think he's going to be borderline unstoppable. Just he's got the exact prototype you want in a player, and as long as he can keep developing his craft, I don't see who's going to slow him down.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's ready to take the league by storm. I think right now most people just kind of think of him as this high flying athlete that can just dunk on everybody. But at the same time, I think there's a lot more to him than that. But I just don't think that perception has really reached the whole league yet. But I think
Hmm.
it will after this season. I think he's really going to ball out in many different facets of the game. And I feel like that's going to blow everybody away. Like you said, he's going to play two ways, play a lot of good defense, generate a lot of steals, and still uh, bring the highlight reel dunks. I think everybody will know who Ant is and know how good his game is by the end of this season.
Yeah, and another thing I've noticed too, kind of continuing the theme with our big three,
Mhm.
but Cat has looked really good in like limited minutes because he's putting up crazy good stats in limited amount of time. Like I think the first preseason game he came out and had like 14 points, 7 boards, and something like right away in the first half. Didn't play the second half. It's like this dude is an offensive stat stuffer in his
Mhm.
sleep. Like this guy can put up numbers whenever he wants, however he wants. So as long as he can stay healthy and as long as the team around him can just be stable, I think he's going to have probably his best season as a pro. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I totally agree. He's one of the most versatile scoring big men ever. Honestly, not just in the league today, but just ever. Because nobody, there's no 7 footers that shoot threes as well as he does, or uh, honestly playing from the elbows or a low post game that he still has, like all the classic bigs do. I think he's just got so much scoring prowess that it really just comes down to if he can play defense and just
Yeah.
stay out of foul trouble and not commit stupid fouls or just stay on the floor and not get injured. So I think there's big things to come for him. I think he could really pop this year, and who knows? Maybe we can throw it around that he's like maybe an MVP conversation. If the Wolves really
Yeah.
assert themselves in the Western Conference and in that playoff picture, then you have to look at who the best player on the team is, and it's probably going to either be Ant or Cat. So I think Cat could definitely get a lot of looks, and I think that he's a very deserving player at this point. He could take his game to another level.
Yeah, it would just be fantastic to see that, honestly, because after all the stuff Cat's been through last couple of years, it'd be nice to just see him come out and have a great season,
Hmm.
truly take the reins of this team and bring us to the next level. So that would be fantastic to see. The one other guy I want to touch on here, we're kind of getting into all the main players tonight, but Malik Beasley, he hasn't looked exactly sharp, I would say, in the preseason so far. I'm sure he's still knocking off some rust, but
Hmm.
Do you have any sort of concern on how he's going to fit in, like especially if he's with the starters of that main four starting group? Do you envision any troubles there with Beasley fitting into that lineup?
I think it could look a little rough at first, but I think eventually he'll fit in fine. I think uh, from what we've seen of him, I think he's just a really good 3-point scorer. I think he probably is the most, I would say, consistent 3-point shooter in our team. At least
Yeah.
I don't know, like this training camp preseason, but like going back to actual regular season games, I think he can be a great scorer, and I think that he'll find his place. It's just obviously he's been out of the picture for a little while, and I think
Hmm.
now he's just got to get reacclimated to it, and I think he'll be fine. But I guess I'm not going to worry about that yet. How about you?
Yeah, I think he's going to be fine as well. I mean, he was our best player for a good chunk of the season last year, just due to injuries and other circumstances. But the guy was a 20-point a game scorer last season before he got hurt. I think he's a really good player. I think he's got to get back into shape a little bit too. Just basketball running shape, like that's kind of hard to do if you're not training all summer. So
Sure.
I think he's going to be fine, and he's a guy that can space the floor, which should create more openings for Ant to drive to the basket, for Cat
Exactly.
to have more room down low as well. So
Hmm.
I think overall, I think he'll be fine. It might take a little bit for him to ease back into it, but yeah, I think he'll be fine. And really, I don't want us to end up trading him because I just think there's a lot of potential there with him still, and it'd be a shame to trade away a guy like that for him to really go have a good career elsewhere because he's the kind of perfect role player that this team could really use, honestly.
Yes, a guy that could just catch fire from the 3-point line and really potentially come out of nowhere and carry you offensively if your big three is having an off night.
For sure. So, yeah, we'll just have to kind of keep an eye on it here. Regular season starts next week, I think next Wednesday, if I remember incorrectly.
I
So,
think you're right. Yeah.
start at home against the Rockets. So that'll be a good, nice first game. Hopefully, they can kind of crush the Rockets. They got Jalen Green though, who's kind of a fun player. So,
High flyer. Yeah.
yeah, so that's going to do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. Once again, be sure to hit that subscribe button, especially if you're new to this channel and you love Minnesota sports. Give us a like on this video as well, as it'll help others find Timberwolves content, Minnesota sports content in general. Feel free to give us a follow on both Twitter and Instagram, and leave your comments below about how you're feeling about this Timberwolves squad, what their rotations are looking like, and who you think maybe a breakout player is going to be this year. So thanks for watching.